I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're exploring The Friendly Forest, an American adventure in adverbs and adjectives. It's written by a terrific author by the name of Richard Lee. This enchanting tale follows a rabbit named Rich Lee on his journey through America's vast landscapes, meeting incredible animals and learning valuable life lessons. Join us as we dive into this heartwarming story about friendship, adventure, and self-discovery. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Good River Print and Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Richard, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you so much, Logan. I appreciate it.
I appreciate your time, sir. You not only are serving the nation's children by writing this book and giving them a wonderful, informative lesson, but you're serving our country as well. You're in uniform today, so tell us a little bit about your military career.
Yes, so I was just telling you before, Logan, that this is my 31st year, honored to serve our great country. Well, first off, I just wanted to backtrack. I just wanted to not forget my beautiful co-author, Brandon, who helped me. He was mainly the inspiration behind why I was writing the book. So I wish he could be here with us today. He would have been able to explain the book probably better than I could, but I'm going to try my best. But I wish, he's in his coding camp today, so he couldn't get out of that. Although he's in New York City, which is closer to your neck of the woods.
Exactly.
He's actually in Brooklyn. But anyway, I figured I'd mention that.
And that's
yeah, it's an honor
Brandon's your son, correct?
Brandon is my son. And like I
Yeah.
said, the pride of my existence, pretty much. So yeah.
I'm sure. So that's great. So he's in coding camp. He's obviously a bright guy. He's helping you with this book, which was wonderful. And we were just talking about you've spent 31 years in the armed services. You're in the U.S. Army Reserves, and you work as a dentist for the Army Reserves.
I am. I'm currently a reservist, but I was on active duty for 4 years. Actually, I was prior service enlisted. I was a medic for 4 years, and then I guess it was a health profession scholarship program, which is an amazing program that paid for my dental school. I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to NYU, both undergrad and grad school, and and they were kind enough to pay for my education. My parents as well, of course. In heaven, they're watching down on me. But anyway, I was just blessed to receive this scholarship to serve our country and also get two great careers out of it, actually. So,
well, thank you for your service. I know dentistry is extremely needed, as is being a medic, and just the time and commitment is so admirable. So thank you so much for serving our nation so proudly and doing so right by this country. Let's talk a little bit about your book, The Friendly Forest. Brandon, in part, was the inspiration?
He was absolutely the main inspiration. When he was going, actually, this has been over 5 years, our project. It started when he was entering the first grade. And, it's funny, he had a little bit of trouble with reading and writing. He had gone into this advanced program that he was blessed to be, accepted to. But he found himself lacking a little bit in those departments. And to tell you honestly, I never thought I would even write anything ever, because those weren't really my strong suits growing up. But, I wanted to inspire him as I've evolved growing up. I'm like, you know what? Certain things I thought, maybe a children's book I could contribute a little bit and to try to inspire him to write and a little more creatively and all that. And, thank you for asking how our last name's pronounced. The Ly is kind of a unique way of spelling Lee, not as common as what people normally see. So it's been mispronounced quite a few times growing up. And I got almost a little tired of correcting people because most people think it's lie just because by itself. So then I started explaining to people that if you put it behind, any verb, or adjective, it becomes an adverb. So anyway, it kind of started out with that. And then it transpired into, creative writing. Maybe we'll make it a little easier to explain that, I guess, and kind of helping the youth kind of learn that a little bit.
And it absolutely helps with helps children understand the concepts of adjectives and adverbs, and hence the name Rich Lee, which probably you get called from time to time as well.
That's actually my name, which worked out. And but anyway,
absolutely. Let's give the folks at home an overview of the story.
Sure. So basically, I get to be the cute rabbit, which it wasn't necessarily by, it was only, I was kind of blending because obviously I have an Asian heritage, even though I consider myself full-blooded American now.
Right.
I was born in Vietnam. I came when I was 3.
Mhm.
But in the Chinese zodiac, there's 12 different animals, and I was born the year of the rabbit. So it
Oh.
just so happened that, I get to be this fluffy bunny. And it's based not only Brandon, but my Devotedly, which is my first dog. She was a Maltese. Her name was Muffin. She's in heaven now, but she was also a huge inspiration behind the book because I love dogs. We have 2 dogs now. But anyway, I was blessed to have her. She was actually my first baby before Brandon. But she was, there's a reason why I named her Devotedly. And most people who
Right.
have dogs or pets they love, I think they could understand where that
Oh,
comes from.
sure.
So most of these words, so it starts off with me kind of sometimes with my life, just going back to childhood. For some reason, being in America, as blessed as I felt like being here, I kind of always felt like something was missing. I was always felt like you're always kind of looking at the greener grass. You're always feeling like, yeah, something was missing in my life. And although when I look back now, I feel like I really have lived such a blessed life, having the best parents, having such great supporting people around me. I've met amazing people. And now to be blessed with a son that I never, I couldn't imagine of having a better son,
Yeah.
So I've been had all these blessings, but like I'm human. So I kind of feel like I didn't sometimes fully appreciate the life I had. So just like Rich the Rabbit, and when he sets off in his journey, he has this beautiful companion at home, Muffin, or devotedly, and
Mhm.
yet he goes out chasing a rainbow, thinking there's going to be something better out there. And somehow I'm kind of lost in this whole the beautiful forest which represents America. But
Mhm.
in that journey, obviously, I meet a lot of incredible animals, which kind of represents different adverbs, and
Mhm.
also some, not so great animals, which, just like in life, not everything is what it seems, I guess,
Mhm.
and it's just the adventures of life. And I think a lot of people hopefully can relate to it, whether you're a child or an adult.
Mhm.
Hopefully it makes you a little more discerning about certain things and,
Yeah.
a little bit of life lessons, and then also maybe trying to appreciate what you have back home, because I think it's very easy sometimes to get lost in what could be better instead of appreciating what you already have. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's a great story. Who's your target audience for your book?
as I mentioned initially, is really for the youth. But I kind of found that as I was delving more into it and we were writing it, thinking about some of the lessons I wanted Brandon to learn from the book. I also want the parents, as they're reading it to their kids, because I think people of any age, they hopefully they'll get a little inspired in what the message behind it is. Actually, one of the main, my favorite, one of my favorite movies, which is from Pixar, Up. That movie was such an eye opener because as I watched it, it made me reflect on my own life of, sometimes we get lost in the end goal and you kind of lose sight of the journey that we're taking, and
Mhm.
once again, appreciating the nuances of everyday life.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the target audience, I honestly, it actually is a big range, it could go from the child that's getting the book read to them to
Mhm.
hopefully the age group which Brandon is in. He just turned 12 a couple of weeks ago. And
Okay.
that age where they should be able to read it and get a lot out of it, to the parents who are actually reading it to their kids. Actually, I've been giving it out to some of my favorite patients as well,
Mhm.
because first of all, I wouldn't be where I am without them. I've grown so
Right.
much through my patients. And so I get, as a little appreciation, been giving it to them. And a lot of them are either reading it to their grandchildren or, I try to write a little note to each of them to let them
Mhm.
know how much we appreciate them and the support they've given me through the years. But yeah, so I feel like it's kind of a vast target. I don't think it's necessarily just for young kids. If anything, for adults, I think they might be able to appreciate it even more. I think,
Yeah.
looking back at their own lives and stuff. So.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's wonderful. Wonderful. Have you envisioned this? You mentioned Up before. Have you envisioned The Friendly Forest perhaps as a film or a series or something like that?
It's interesting you asked me, Mr. Crawford, because a couple of months ago, when I first met this publishing company, they had talked to me about that. And I actually even had a little kind of like a similar interview I'm doing with you right now, to try to kind of pitch it as what we were thinking, maybe an animation or
Right.
something. Which I mean, I think the characters are, kind of adorable,
Yeah.
but the interesting thing is, I actually really would like it to be more of a learning tool. There's a
Sure.
reason why each of these animals, if anything, I would think an animated series where, maybe each episode was an animal that's big getting
Sure.
emphasized because as you've read, like when you're going through each animal, unfortunately, on one page, sometimes it's hard to explain the significance of what each word means or which adverb means or
Hmm.
so I almost feel like if you could enhance it a way, if it's going to be an animation, it kind of almost has to be done that way. That
Yeah.
way people could get a full understanding of the significance of each animal and what they represent, I guess.
Sure, it could be designed as a learning tool for children to
Yeah.
learn about different animals, learn about different aspects of the language. I think it
Yes.
could be terrific in multiple episodes for sure. So
Oh,
there's a
thank
niche for everything in this video-driven world. I mean, we have a million channels out there from Nickelodeon to Hulu and
yes.
beyond. So
Mhm.
the Cartoon Network. So sure,
Sure.
absolutely. I think the work is out there now. That's the important part. So you never know
Yes.
who might pick it up, who might want to interpret it a certain way, and who might want to
Yes.
develop it for you, which would be
Thank you.
great. I also think the book is good to spark conversations between parent and child. Have you thought
Mhm.
about that at all?
I absolutely think so. I think kids of a certain age, as I mentioned with Brandon, I've conversed with him with, with a certain maturity level since he
Sure.
was like 6 about certain issues that are, like happening within even our own country. As blessed as we are to be here, sometimes I try to explain to him how fortunate he was to be born here because,
Mm,
as I mentioned, I was born in Vietnam and, it's very quick when you realize what your family lost, and really is because of the resilience of my parents and the amazing opportunities that our country affords.
yeah.
That's why I'm in front of you now. I mean,
Yeah.
once again, it's like to be a dentist in an amazing country and have the life that we have right now.
Yeah.
It's really something. Says a lot about, once again, my life is blessed. It wasn't what I did; it was what my predecessors did, my parents,
Right.
and just the opportunities that this country represents. So I feel like that conversation between parents and kids, I feel like it should be had. I feel like it gets lost because we are lucky. We're lucky, and sometimes being lucky, you maybe not necessarily see how lucky or appreciate how
Yeah.
lucky we actually are. So
Exactly. I think few people appreciate this country as much as people who emigrated to it because they came from a land where it wasn't the land of plenty like this one is,
yes,
where, everybody has air conditioning, everybody has cars, everybody has
right,
phones, everybody has abundant food,
right, right.
and everybody has a relatively free society where they can say and do what they want and follow any
Yes,
path that they want. They're not dictated by the country, what educational level they'll have, and that's it.
absolutely.
So yeah, it is a wonderful, wonderful country. And you've said a big thank you. You've been serving this country for 31 years in a skilled position. So I think that's terrific as well. Did your immigration experience influence the book at all?
It absolutely did. I mean, first off, as I mentioned, just being not from here, although I was only 3, so honestly, I have no recollection of my
Right,
previous country, but I've heard through my parents and my
right,
relatives of how it was. I kind of have an understanding. I even watched a ten episode documentary of the Vietnam War and all the
right,
things that were happened during that time. And it's interesting because I've met so many Vietnam vets that I always have to extend a thanks.
right.
I honestly believe each one of them, I had to thank them because unfortunately how they were treated when they on their way back was, unfortunately something that
Yeah.
it breaks my heart just because I feel like I'm one of the hopefully good things that came out of a bad situation.
Mm,
And if it wasn't for their service, I wouldn't be in front of them now. And
yeah.
I actually am a part of a VFW out here, Veterans of Foreign Wars, and I've met most of them are actually Vietnam vets now, and it's an honor to be in the same club and mentioned in the same breath as they are. But anyway, so it's one of those things where the perspective. I'm glad at least I could understand what my parents' plight were, and and all the veterans that served as well. So
Yeah.
I feel like I always tell people I'm just a dentist, so I feel honored when people thank me for whatever they think I deserve, but I feel like it's not undeserving compared to what I feel like other people have done for our
Well,
country. So
that shows great humility, and that's part of being a hero as well. So I
thank you.
understand your thoughts as well. Talk to me a little bit about the illustrations in this book.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's funny. That was probably the most challenging part. So it brought me back to my childhood because I had Brandon help me touch up some things, but mainly I was sketching kind of between patients sometimes. So I bought a colored pencil set. So I would just leave it at the office. So sometimes if I have a little bit of a break, if there was an animal or whatever I'm inspired by, I'm like start sketching and I'll look up some animals, start drawing it. But Brandon told me that the animals have to look cute a certain way with the eyes and everything. So I'm like, okay. So those little things, those little details, he really helped me with. And he was my editor pretty much in chief. So once I was done kind of doing everything, he gave me the final critique of the work
Right.
and stuff. So his was, like it was really just important, like what he brought to the table, even
Mhm.
though, for me, when you hear me talk about it, obviously it was something that we'll always have together. You know, will leave something behind even when I'm gone. But yeah, so the illustrations just brought me back to my childhood and actually detailing it to publish in a book, because this is the first book we've ever published. I mean, getting it colorful enough to print, I had no idea. I had to send it back like 3 or 4 times
Wow.
just to get it bright enough. So next time I think I'll choose a different medium of how to do it if there is a sequel to the book. But anyway, so just something.
It's pretty cool. You drew the pictures yourself. I mean, because not a lot of children's authors do that.
Thank you. Yeah, like I
Yeah,
said, dentistry has a little bit of an artistic aspect of it. So
sure.
I feel like I never fully lost that. I don't get to be as creative. I'm better at replication of things, but it kind of
Right.
allowed me to be a little bit creative and be a little more colorful, I guess, in life. So yeah,
Yeah,
thank
very,
you for
very
saying
cool.
that.
The book has themes of friendship and self-discovery as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, that
Mhm.
self-discovery still goes back to the realization of just a generalized appreciation for what we have, as opposed to like looking at the glass half full versus half empty, which
Mhm.
and not letting some of the smaller negative things like affect us too much. Yeah, and really like sometimes it comes around full circle as you find out, or as the way the book ends, it's more like when you realize what you had, you do anything to try to get it back. Like my Maltese, she passed away at 15, so I was blessed to have 15 great years with her, but
Sure.
I didn't fully appreciate all 15 years, until
Yeah,
she was gone. Thank goodness my two current puppies, Brownie and Cannoli, they filled somewhat of the void
yeah,
of what Muffin left behind. Those are big shoes to fill for a little
right.
dog. But yeah, no, I mean, but yeah, it's just I guess the whole idea concept behind it is just making sure everybody just takes a different perspective sometimes of their own lives, and
Yeah,
just understanding that sometimes it's not as bad as it seems.
yeah.
And anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
So
you got a whole
hopefully we have
food theme
inspiration.
going on here with your pets. You got cannoli, you got brownie, you got
Yes,
muffin.
I know it's got to be a dentist that has all the sweet
Yeah,
treats, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Those are
Careful.
actually
All of that stuff will give you cavities. It should be avoided.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. Brownie, it was mainly because that was the first treat Brandon could eat because he had lactose issues and dairy allergies as a young child. So when he first grew out of it, brownies were the first thing that I could
Wow.
bake for him that he could actually eat. And cannolis were the second thing.
Yeah.
So those two for his seventh and eighth birthdays, they were his presents. So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Tell me what it was like collaborating with your son. Did you decide you were going to write a book together? How did that all come about?
So yes, so what happened was one day we were blessed. Actually, it was because of a veterans organization donated. They're called Vet Ticks. They
Mhm.
give like amazing tickets to amazing events. So there
Mhm.
was one event in particular that inspired us to write this book. I was driving up. We were driving up. I picked him up from school in the city. We were driving up to Mohegan Sun to watch Terry Fader. Are you familiar
Mhm.
with him? Yeah, so America's Got Talent, and this guy is unbelievable. So he donated tickets, front row tickets for
Wow.
veterans to go watch his concert. So we driving up there, and for some reason, we were talking about how he's doing in school and all that.
Mhm.
And out of nowhere, it was just like, we should write a book. And
Wow.
because and then during that ride, oh my God, there was so much traffic. It was a Friday evening. Oh my God. It
From
was like
Long Island to
three and a
Connecticut,
half.
that'll take you a while.
Oh my God. It took us almost 4 hours, I think, to get there.
Yeah,
But anyway, it was 4 hours of brainstorming of all the adverbs we should use in the book. Or we just compiled maybe 50 adverbs that were kind of important to us.
right,
Each, as probably noticed, each adverb hopefully has very, deep meaning. And I feel like the words that I would like to live by myself, I
right.
try to use those words to kind of inspire me, whether it's one of the chapters was because of Tim McGraw's song Humble and Kind. I mean, I'm like,
Mhm.
when I first heard that song, I'm like, oh my God, if the world just listened to the song and just kind of lived by the words of the song, we just automatically have a better place.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, so it was during that drive up to watch Terry Fader that it totally turned into what the start of the journey. And it was like about 5.5 years ago. So yeah.
Right. So 5.5 years ago, you guys are driving from Long Island up to Mohegan Sun,
Yes.
stuck in horrible traffic, as is often
Mhm,
the case.
mhm.
And you decided that you'd write this book and you brainstormed all the different adjectives and so forth. And then you came home and you guys started working on the computer together. Tell us about how that worked.
Yeah, so we just writing down little messages of how we could turn it into like a story. And just imagining, I think the reason it kind of was most easy when I was thinking about the process was it really is almost autobiographical because, as I'm going through my own journey as from what I could reflect upon and how everything kind of worked between Muffin. That's why it started with Muffin because she was my ex-wife had she want actually Muffin was not the dog I chose. It was my ex-wife. Ironically, she blessed me with Muffin and she blessed me with Brandon. So
Right.
I'll always be indebted to her. She's a wonderful person. Anyway, but Muffin was really the beginning of that loss. Not, I mean, I think I could even go further back. It really probably I didn't fully appreciate my parents for what they did for me until unfortunately my dad passed. Both my parents passed away from cancer. My
Mhm.
dad was 50 and my mom was only 60. Not she missed her 65th birthday by 2 days.
Wow.
So I lost two of the most important people in my life because of that terrible disease.
Yeah.
But like, and I felt awful because I was 23 at the time when my dad passed away. I was in my first year of dental school when he finally succumbed to his disease.
Awful.
And like I said, that last year with him was it was tough on me because you go through the teenage years where you're not fully at home and engaged with your
Right.
parents.
Yeah, you're
And
ready to
then
break free of the nest and leave
yes,
everybody behind. What your dad has to say has little impact or meaning to you. And
yeah,
then all of a sudden you're losing them at 23 and you can't believe it
yeah,
because you thought you had another 20, 30, 40 years together.
yes, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
it's awful. It's awful.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I think it definitely really started with them, and then and then with Muffin, it felt like I didn't fully appreciate her as well in the beginning, and
right.
then thank you with Brandon, I pretty much appreciate him from the beginning because he's been an amazing son, as I mentioned.
Easier
But
with kids.
it is. I mean,
Yeah,
even though it's hard work, I mean, I think
yeah.
because he made my journey easy with him,
Yeah.
I never envisioned fatherhood could be such a blessing until I had him.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And it's great that you had this project together. And like you said, this will always be part of your story, always be part of your legacy that you collaborated together and produced this book. Now, have you had the chance to read it to other children? Have you had it? I know you'd share it with some of your patients. Tell us what the reactions are from children.
So yeah, it's funny. I have not had that opportunity yet. Actually, it's funny. Recently, over the last 7 years, I've been going to the local junior high school here. It's called Longwood Junior High School. They were nice enough to invite us, my boss and I, to talk about our careers. It was career day basically at the
Right.
junior high school. So I've been going to highlight, the greatness of, the military, the dentistry, and all that stuff. But this year, unfortunately I didn't get the book in time to bring it because I would have liked to say, I mean, I was blessed those two careers kind of brought me back to where now I'm kind of an author too. So it would have been nice to be able to, talk to them about that it's another thing that because it was a small publishing firm that was able to help us get it done. And anyway, but it was just one of those things. The opportunities definitely seem like it's endless in this country,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
things I would never have envisioned I would have done, years ago.
Right.
Somehow there's an opportunity to do it here, so
Wonderful.
but someone, I did have a patient who I think said she was either a librarian, or I also have a veteran patient who says is interconnected with one of the local schools here, and they had mentioned that, oh, if you ever want to like set up maybe a reading, because they're very kind to veterans out here, so if I ever wanted to go read to the children, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to,
Yeah,
so yeah, maybe
that'd
maybe
be
one day
great.
it'll
Get
get
some
done.
instant feedback reading it to the kids, and I think that'd be
Sure.
fun. Let's talk a little bit about your future plans for writing. I think you've got the bug now, so I think you're probably going to write more. You thinking about a sequel for this? Tell us about your thoughts. What's going on through your head?
I am considering it. I am starting to make a list, because there were only so many pages and words I could squeeze
Right.
into the original story. I mean, I felt almost guilty, because once again, I've been blessed by so many people, including some of my friends, some of my relatives that helped us come to this country, a lot of my patients actually. And I'm
Right.
hoping to, there's a couple of ideas I was throwing around. Obviously, it's also to honor them, but the patients, as far as going to like get the dental aspect of it, I'm like, they obviously they each have their own personalities, but the apprehensiveness of coming to the dentist is still, I feel like it's maybe still one of the top fears that people have. It's
Oh
weird.
yeah.
And I work with Gentle Dental, which works because I try to be kind and gentle with most of my patients. But anyway, I'm trying to do something where it might help them a little bit with their own anxieties, and
Yeah.
make them realize that there's nothing shameful, there's nothing that to be embarrassed about. To dentistry has come a long way since I was a
Yeah.
child, so I'm like, things that might help a little bit with that, it seems like it's still a big problem for a lot of the population. So anyway.
I think that's a natural fit, maybe a children's book that'll help children ease their anxiety about going to the dentist,
Yeah.
or it
Or
could be
doctors,
geared to
right?
older.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because
Mhm,
kids are
mhm.
all afraid of getting shots, afraid of getting
Yes.
drilled, afraid of
Yes.
all that stuff. So I think
Mhm.
you're in the right alley there, particularly since it fits in with your specialty. This
Thank
book is
you.
a great book that we've been focusing on today. It's called The Friendly Forest, an American adventure in adverbs and adjectives. It's written by Dr. Richard Lee, and it's an amazing book. It's an enchanting tale that follows a rabbit named Rich Lee on his journey through America's vast landscapes, meeting animals and learning valuable life lessons. It's a great book. It'll entertain your child, it'll inform your child, and it'll provoke great conversations between you and your child. So it is highly recommended. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight. I appreciate your time, sir.
It's been an honor, Logan. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
The honor's all mine. I appreciate your time here on our show. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight.